let's give Victoria a big App Promotion Summit. Welcome to the stage. Over to you.
Right. So thanks a lot. So thanks for having me today, and also for the short introduction. So I'm Victoria, and I work as international marketing lead at Floki. I'm pretty glad to have the chance to talk about this topic, how to launch your app internationally with everyone. So if you have an app doing pretty well in its home market, like Germany, in US, you might think about whether you can spend it to other markets to unlock more growth, revenue potential. So I will talk about first how you can localize, how can you launch your app into another market, and how you can market it internationally. And I will also use Floki today as an example to share some learnings and experience we got in this process. So I want to quickly use the first slide to introduce you what Floki is, if you haven't heard about the app. And so Floki is a piano learning app. And so we believe there are millions of people dream of playing the piano, but they might not have the money, the time to go to teachers. And some people who try to learn via YouTube video might also find it quite difficult to follow just by watching at the screen. So our goal here is to create a better, easier way for everyone to be able to learn. So in the app, we have an interactive step-by-step piano tutorials, and we also offer piano arrangement in 4 different kinds of difficulty levels. So even for beginners, it will be easy for everyone to find the music they want to learn, and it will fit their level. And above that, we use a note recognition system to listen to what our users are playing. It means that the app will move forward, it will check if you are playing it right, and it will wait for you if you are playing on the wrong note. And Floki was released in 2015, and at the same year, we cooperate with Yamaha Europe. And back then, I think just like pretty many other German-based companies, we had a strong presence in terms of PR in DACH region. We also grew quickly with our English version in the US market. But back then, the rest of the world was kind of unknown to us. And after a few years, Yamaha's Chinese subsidiary, they heard about the cooperation between us and Yamaha Europe. They tried the app, they really like it, and decided to work with us as well. So we started this localization plan and started launching to different markets, like in China in 2019, and later on in Spain and France, this year also in Japan and South Korea. And so here I want to share some first result we got. We more than double our revenue this year. And while our German, US, UK market were growing really fast, and our new market contributed 37% of the revenue share. We also saw really rapid, really strong user growth in markets like China and Japan. And also in some markets where we already had certain amount of organic user just by our English version of the app, for example, France and Spain, we also saw that our purchase conversion doubled after we launched the localization. So here to convince you even more why you should make the effort for internationalization. So according to the app growth score defined by Adjust, you can see that the countries with the most growth potential are mostly in the APAC and Latin American countries, which has the red and the yellow colors on the map. At the same time, during the past year pandemic, we also saw really high demand of apps on education, health, entertainment, those categories worldwide. It means that if you're only focusing on just one continent, you might be kind of missing out in other countries. And apart from that, if your app has pretty strong seasonality, in particular season, you might also want to expand to other continents to balance your low season. So take Floki as example, we have pretty strong performance usually in the winter time, especially for Europe and US. Because in a cold, dark day like this, people just like to stay at home, stay cozy, and play some music. But in some markets, we also find the summer vacation time can be a really important learning season. Also, in terms of holiday sales season, instead of Christmas holiday, some countries have golden weeks, moon festival, and so on during the spring and autumn time. So you actually can consider to diversify your market portfolio to make sure your performance is stable throughout the whole year. Yeah. So here, if you decide that you want to go on, you want to internationalize into a new market, the next question you will encounter is, so where, which market to go to? Of course, different business will have different considerations, different factors, but here I will give the 5 major points that you at least should go through. So first, of course, is the market size. Whether it's a good market, it has growth potential, and how many installs, sign-ups, new users you can expect. And next will be app purchasing power. So how much money people are really spending on apps or games. So I would recommend you to go further, for example, on how much people are really spending on online education, either even piano or music education, or sometimes indoor activity or indoor exercise, depending on your app category. And so here I will also want to make a short post because I think in the live discussion, you can go on the poll. So here we have a question, which country has the highest per capita spend in apps, especially for 2020? So you can select your answer in post, and I will share and announce the answer by the end of this talk. Yeah, and so next it will be an OS share. If your app has pretty strong or particularly strong performance either on iOS or Android, you should also check the OS device share in this market. And also competitor, you can check if your major competitor is already in a certain market and you see that they are investing a lot on a lot of marketing activities. Is usually a good sign, because usually it means your competitor is getting something out of it. They see a good profit. But if not, if other things check on the list, but your competitor is not there, it's even better, because sometimes you can be the pioneer in this market, or you only need to compete with smaller local, smaller companies or competitors. Right, and also important is the amount of effort your team need to make. So the market you are going to will really decide the complexity of this localization project and how much effort, how much time you will need for the whole team. So I will also go a bit deeper into this topic when we are going into the localization list. So after that, you can basically put the whole localization project into 4 simple steps. First, identify this everything to be localized. Then create a timeline, a plan for this project. Monitor the progress, and of course adjust it, modify it when it's necessary. And last, to launch it together with your marketing team. So first, list everything to be localized. So many people might think that localizing your app simply means just to translate your interface, but it's actually just a really first step, because of course you have to translate your website, maybe app store description and so on, to make the whole product available, understandable for this market. And then if you are offering content, just like Floki, we have tutorial videos, you will also need to find the right voice in that language and select a voice artist, then record the whole voiceover video. In many cases, you also want to provide relevant local content. So in our case, it will be songs, the music people want to learn. For example, we have French folk songs, K-pop, J-pop sometimes, because those will be the contents your target user in that country can be interested in, and they are searching for when they enter the app. Next will be product. So the basic thing is whether the app is usable or not in this country, right? So first thing, if your app requires a third-party login, you will need to check whether Facebook or Google are actually available in that country. So for China, this market, it will be a no. That's why we added WeChat login as an option for this market. Other than that, you should also check whether the prices you are setting is actually too high or available or okay for this market. And of course, whether your users are able to pay. So if your app is using Apple's in-app purchase, it's usually fine for different, for all the markets. But in terms of Google Pay, PayPal, Visa, credit card, those payments, it will be, again, not really possible for China. So if mainland China, we say it's happened to be your target market, you will also need to check the server connection, because if you don't have a server within the firewall, the app basically doesn't load or doesn't work properly in the market. And I would really recommend you to tackle this problem early on. Otherwise, you will get some maybe bad reviews, a lot of complaints while you are scaling up the user base. Right. So the next one will be marketing for sure. So you want to check whether you are able to extend your current marketing strategies into the new markets. For example, to check the volume of ASO SEO keywords, and most importantly, whether you are able to acquire users with your current marketing platforms or ad platforms. So you will quickly find that, for example, Facebook isn't always the mainstream, the most popular social media around the world. There's Douyin, this Chinese TikTok. There's Line for Japan and Thailand, for example. There's Naver for South Korea and VK for Russia. And at the same time, you also need to check whether you are able to increase your visibility, brand awareness, for example, by reaching out to local media to find regional partners, or as we say, different countries have different seasonality. So you can also organize different kind of seasonal campaign sales offer for different region. Right. So after you have everything on the list, it's the time to put everything or put all the puzzles together, basically. So you want to create a timeline because it's important to know when is the deadline or when is the launch day. So in terms of the deadline, you have to consider two things. First, if it's actually possible for your team in terms of their capacity or the workload. Also, it's important to consider whether it's actually a good timing. So as I say that for Floki, it's our high season during the winter time for European markets. So we wouldn't want to launch to France or Spain during summer because even everything is on time, we got good coverage, we spend a lot on ads, the impact or the performance can still be depreciated in this case. Then you can also put all the tags in a chronological order. And importantly, to check which tags are correlated or which one are relating to each other. For example, we won't be able to upload voiceover by our product team or dev team if we don't have the voiceover recorded. And we also won't be able to do so if we don't have the right voice artists selected or the script translated. Right. Then it's definitely important to monitor the progress. So before you assign all the tags out to all the stakeholders, to everyone involved, it's really important to sit down and communicate this process. So you want to communicate the whole project and to make sure that everyone is committed to this deadline. And I will always suggest to kind of be a bit pessimistic in terms of the deadline and also leave more buffer time for yourself because there are always some unexpected subtext coming out during this process. For example, when we launched to France and Spain, we kind of imagined it will be a relatively easy project because culture-wise, infrastructure-wise, it should be quite similar to Germany. But just halfway, we realized that those countries are using totally different musical system or the note system. So instead of learning music by C, D, E, they are learning by Do, Re, Mi, Fa, So. So it eventually become a pretty big subtask or extra project for our product team. Then right before the launch, your marketing team gonna play a pretty important role. For example, I will really recommend you to share your localization project to your important partners, either local partners or, for example, like Apple or Google, because getting features on Apple Day or on app stores will be a really powerful impact early on. You will bring a lot of organic users. Also, you will get some ratings, reviews. Also, it can add a lot of credibility to your product when you are reaching out to other media or local partners afterwards. So after the launch, it's going to be an ongoing mission for your marketing team to scale up the performance and also to keep acquiring users. So let's talk about, like we say, you want to extend your marketing strategies to different markets. But the question is, how can you do that? Here I list some of the common marketing channels, for example, ads, and also some organic channel, ASO, SEO, social media, and of course, some of you might have influencer partnership. So you have your existing marketing team to take care of each channel, and you also have your current structure or strategy in place. Or what you need is someone to take care of the last mile or the last part of the operation in that country, right? Right. So if you are a bigger scale company, it's definitely possible that you want to hire a whole Chinese team, a Spanish team to have each person taking care of each channel. But more often, you want to start with a regional marketer or a country manager to kind of test the water and to see whether you get something in return and how this market really developed. So the question again is, how does your regional marketer work with your existing marketing team? And here I will give some examples. So the most important thing for this marketer will be to identify the unique opportunity in this market. For example, to explore the right marketing platform, ad platform to reach out to the users effectively. And so here I take Japan as example. And of course, you can replace this to any other market you have in mind. And so in this case, the regional marketer can find, okay, maybe Yahoo Japan or Line, those media can work better, can be more effective in terms of acquiring new users. And for the ASO, SEO parts, you will also really need someone to do the groundwork, to implement or to identify the right keywords and to optimize the performance constantly. And from the communication side, it's also important to have someone to communicate, maintain relationship with local partners, and reaching out to local medias or influencer. So most importantly, you should have a regional marketer that can give insight, give input to the strategy, but at the same time be able to adapt the strategy and also to execute, support the marketing operations. And then outside the marketing team, you will also need someone as a regional marketer to give ideas, input to your creative team. For example, what kind of emotion, what kind of songs can resonate the local users. And since your regional marketer should be monitoring all the regional metrics, performance, it's also really important to identify some issues, spot on some errors early on. For example, if you find this country has particularly low registration rate, it might come from your login method broken, or if the app is not loading properly, or if you find the purchase conversion just suddenly got low in this country, it might come from just a copy translation error or anything wrong on the pricing page. Right, so here I will just also announce the answer of the poll. So actually the answer is just a hint on the screen, it's Japan. So I see, wow, Japan is actually takes 37% of the answer. So I can tell like everyone has a pretty good idea of how the countries developed and how much people are spending in different countries. So it's pretty tricky, like because the question is about per capita, it will definitely be different if the question is simply which country spends the most on apps. So the answer in terms of per capita spend will be first place Japan, then actually followed by South Korea, then the third place is United States. Right. After we go through the journey, I would also want to give 3 advice for people who want to start this project. First, to create a localization framework, or you call it a playbook or a blueprint. So you should be able to learn from your experience and make sure you can improve and make your next project more and more efficient from your own framework. And second is to gain insight from locals. So here I would say, for example, if you learn Spanish, you speak Spanish, doesn't really mean that you understand the Spanish user. And when you listen to a lot of K-pop music, doesn't mean that you understand the Korean user. So do some research or interview the local users can really give you a lot of insights and can always surprise you. So, so to say, also be open-minded about the different user behaviors. So you actually don't have to, or not necessarily need to change your product every time to satisfy all the users around the world. But when you see some differences, you should try to understand the meaning behind it and try to think about whether you have some quick easy solutions for those differences. Right. So thanks a lot for everyone's attention. So I hope you get some insight, some useful information out of this. And really last, we are also hiring for CRM manager. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Victoria. That was fantastic. And I think we're going to have to ask you maybe next year to come back and join one of the workshop rooms and do maybe a longer sort of session on this, maybe some updates. It's really great. And we've had quite a few presentations on localization over the years, and I haven't seen all of them, but that was definitely, definitely one of the most sort of sophisticated kind of frameworks we've seen. So yeah, it was fantastic. I think there's a couple of questions people have left in the chat, so I think you're going to head over there now and answer those. And yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to you for taking part.
Sure, I'm glad. Yeah, I believe it's definitely a lot of information in this 20 minutes talk or 30 minutes talk. So I will be glad if someone reach me out later on if they have more detailed questions.
And yeah, if you can drop into Swapcard now and answer those questions, that'd be great. All right, thanks. Okay, great. Everyone, we'll start the next one shortly. Anyone having problems with the live thing, that you just need to refresh it, and that seems to sort of sort it out. All right, okay, we'll see you shortly. We've got the next presentation coming up very soon, which is going to be on organic user acquisition product